Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. So how's everyone doing after last week, the eclipse, and then Neptune moving into Aries yesterday on Sunday? So here we are, March 31st. And one thing I'm noticing about this week is communications are up front. Bad communications, miscommunications, deleted communications, denial communications. There is a little window, and that's later in the week when things are starting to clarify. One of the things that's happening is Mercury's going to go direct next week. And this has been a particularly challenging Mercury retrograde for a gazillion reasons. And part of it, yes, is Venus is also retrograde. And when you think about it, Venus is, among other things, it's how we express love, what attracts us, how we flirt, how we engage people, how we communicate ideas to persuade. Venus enhances all these skills because she's about how we legitimately connect with people. And some people, it's all smoke and mirrors. You know, they're very good at the seduction of Venus. And other people they want to meet you in a very heartfelt place. Some other people are just more buzzing through, sort of in their Venusian ways. They're the more airy people, sort of chatting, loving, and not necessarily having the intensity of some of the other expressions of Venus. But while Venus has been retrograde, she's been a bit hard to read in places because she's in Pisces right now. And that's a sign that not everybody feels is in very clear focus. This period is absolutely fantastic for going into depth in the dream world, in the visioning world, in creativity, because with both Venus and Mercury retrograde in Pisces, we have the ability to deep dive into the realm of fantasy, imagination, spirituality, and for some of us, La La Land and totally way out there, totally out in the deep sea of unreality. So depending on what you're trying to get done over this period of time, it may feel as though you've been floating along or adrift or having trouble concretizing anything well. Neptune is now in Aries. Neptune considered the higher octave of love. And in Aries, as I've talked about, this can be a very assertive way of going for what somebody believes in, what their sense of truth or their mandate on being here in a higher realm capacity, higher ideal capacity, if you will. And in Aries, that can be very aggressive and assertive and a bit, at times, belligerent, righteous. Oof. And we are seeing lots of this on the world stage these days, this sort of righteous sense of what someone wants or deserves or how they're asserting their point of view. So on this week where there's a lot of engagement with communication, I think it behooves us all to think about, am I being clear? What is it I really want or need to say? And if any of us are feeling a hesitation because there are definitely signals to quiet oneself, or in some cases, people are getting much more strident. And what's really important at this time is to think about, what is that highest octave of love each one of us wants to vibrate with, in a way that has to do, what is it I want to express or need to express or take a stand for at this point in time, or where I'm at this period in my life. So, getting back to Monday, the 31st. The moon is in the sign of Taurus, and as it moves through the sky, it doesn't make any direct planetary aspects with anything. That's looking at Eastern time zone. So basically, this moon in Taurus is pretty sweet, considering some of the other things that I just talked about with the retrogrades and feeling like there's delays or money's not coming in the way you'd like, or and also that's the other messaging, a lot of concerns and upsets about money and what's going on with money and who's playing around with money and who's in control of money and what is money. Is the dollar going to change its value? Is cryptocurrency, going to really be a piece of currency that's recognized in a greater world realm? So this moon in Taurus day is giving us a lot of ability to just sink into, okay, what makes me feel secure? What can I get a sense of? Who can I talk to who has more understanding, if I don't, of things that I'm concerned about? And so this is a really good time to explore that, have those conversations, and dig a little deeper in what you might want to do, how you might want to be positioning yourself in real estate, in finance, or if you have none of these things to think about or consider, thinking in terms of, well, what makes me feel secure? Is it, what gives me a greater sense of security? And with the moon in Taurus, I think one of the themes is food security. And even just an herb garden on your shelf, or just things that give you a sense of expansiveness, connection to soil, again, as someone who's lived in cities and in dark apartments, I know that's not always an achievable goal. But community gardens, ways that you can connect or be a part of a food co-op. These are all wonderful things to consider at this point in time. So overall, I think it's a great day on Monday, and Tuesday moves into that very sweet energy as well. And really nice, as I said, for that connectivity with meditation, with creativity, with really, really sinking in and considering, what is it that I value and most care about, and how do I want to use my voice going forward? However that voice articulates. Is it writing? Is it in your work? Is it in conversations with neighbors? What is it that forges a sense of greater bond and a sense of being able to move forward at a time when many people feel a bit deer in the headlights, like what is going to happen next? Well, your forecaster here is happy to discuss things that are coming up from a perspective of what's my perspective? My perspective always is how to look for things that are positive and anticipate growth in spite of signals or messages that may tell us that nothing is possible. I don't believe nothing is possible. I definitely am of the contention that if we're in this period of total chaos, which we basically are, there's a reason for that. And part of the reason is that when things get too comfortable and they must change, we are basically courting chaos because we have not been instrumental or proactive in the changes that must happen. And that doesn't mean every individual listening to me feels that. I mean, many of us are active in certain ways to create changes. But what happens is a situation at times has to hit critical mass in order to really precipitate that kind of energy that's going to lead us into a big shift. And that's what I anticipate. So at this point in time, each one of us needs to spend work on visualizing, anticipating how to take action as the opportunities unfold. And that doesn't mean you're planning it right now. What it means on Monday and Tuesday is that you ideally have time to appreciate the earth, nature, where you are in space in a way that helps to celebrate the reality that you're alive at a time which is pivotal, but also can be such a catalyst for the way that we birth into a new and hopefully more creative and spiritual and evolutionary reality. So, Tuesday, April Fool's Day, one of my personal favorite days in the world, not because I like to necessarily play tricks on people, but that was my mother's birthday, so we always appreciate and have a sense of humor on April Fools, and that is good advice always, to have a sense of humor in these times that are a bit batshit crazy, as I said to someone the other day. So the particularly delicious time today happens as of a little post-dawn into early afternoon, and that particularly delicious time is occurring because the moon is in the sign of Taurus, and it makes a lovely sextile, a harmonious aspect to Venus and then Mercury. Yes, retrograde, these planets, but I think that has so much to do with reflection and revisiting projects you've been working on, ways you've been thinking, dreams you've been putting aside. Because at this point in time, it's so important to really look at those dreams and plant little seeds on how they're going to be a reality. Because we never really know. I mean, some people are they're very good in a linear capacity of this, I go here, and then I get here, and then I get here. I've never been one of those people. And actually, probably most people I know are not. Because invariably what happens, even with that very linear way of planning, we encounter something that forces a change, a tangent. Something did not go as planned. And especially if we live long enough, this is something that's kind of inevitable. So I think it's always wonderful when I look at a day like today with the moon in Taurus, and even when the moon in Taurus is void, it's void from 1:43 p.m. Eastern Time until 4:26 p.m. And when the moon is void in a sign like Taurus, it's not, usually when I talk about a void of course moon, I say, don't start anything new, work on projects already in motion. Nothing concrete is really going to come to pass. When the moon's in Taurus, that can be a little tricky sometimes because the moon is quite happy in Taurus. So she can kind of present something a bit unexpected when the moon's in Taurus, void of course. And it may not be what you had planned to do, but it may very well be something that can come to fruition and give a delightful return. So overall, this is, I think Monday and Tuesday up until late afternoon is like the gravy days of this week. And then once the moon enters Gemini at 4:26 p.m., the day can still seem like great, a lot of things coming in, a lot of ideas, conversations, and good into Wednesday as well. That moon makes a nice picture with Jupiter in a conjunction lineup. And so people can feel really good, like a lot of lovely, playful energy, conversations and connections and childlike wonder, all really super. The thing to keep in mind is that moon in Gemini, remember Mercury's retrograde, Gemini is connected to the planet Mercury and in an energetic capacity. And so what happens is eventually that moon in Gemini is going to be in square with Mercury before it goes void of course. So what that means is that anything you might begin, conversations where you think things are going, making plans, the inevitability is something is going to not go as planned or as contracted. And that's not necessarily bad. It's just you want to be aware of that. Because if you're counting on making, for instance, a tight plane connection, well, that may not work out exactly as you planned. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It just means that it may be particularly fraught, or maybe the connection is missed, or maybe someone thought they'd meet you at a certain time, and instead of 12:10, they thought you were meeting at 10:12. But anyway, just know that double checking, following up, making sure things are all put down very clearly is super important on Tuesday evening, Wednesday, and into Thursday. Thursday is probably the rockiest day for just missed signals, maybe a bit of frustration, things not going quite as you had planned, follow-ups not happening the way they did, people not delivering stuff you thought that was going to be delivered. The moon goes void, of course, at 2:26 p.m. Eastern Time, and then it doesn't enter Cancer until 6:50 p.m. So this mid-afternoon into early evening, that's particularly like you really don't want to start anything new or make tight plans. It's better working on things already in motion, clearing things up, preparing for the next push. And once the moon enters Cancer at 6:50 p.m., the evening can be, I think the best way to spend this evening, if you have the luxury of planning exactly what you're doing, is just do something really low-key. I mean, being at home, watching a movie with popcorn, preparing a meal that gives you a lot of comfort and quiet, being cozy, not pushing too hard, enjoying being outside, walking in sunset into evening. All these things are just lovely ways to spend it, because there can be in the air a sense of some anxiety or frustration, or that someone's confusion, someone wants you to do something you don't want to do, or vice versa. So whatever can have people chill out is advisable on the 3rd. And then on the 4th, that moon is still in the sign of Cancer. And this day looks pretty good to me in many ways. It looks like if you had that evening of quiet reflection, you can kind of be planning or doing things that are more in line with what makes sense. So it's not pushing the rock uphill. It's, okay, I know this guy's the best one to work with on this. I got an idea to reach out to this person or follow up on that idea. And a lot of things can just really flow. The important thing is that you make any adjustments that need to be made. Remember, the solar eclipse new moon was last week, and so we're in the waxing moon cycle. And this is the day we approach that first quarter moon. So this is a time of reevaluating. What projects did I start this week, or I have in mind to start soon, or that I was going to take some time with, and look at it and consider, okay, what do I have to tweak? What doesn't quite make sense? What am I going to put aside for a while because I want to finish up certain things to get that sense of accomplishment that's just so powerful when we're able to do that. And Saturday the 5th, that moon is still in the sign of Cancer. And once again, when the moon's in the sign of Cancer and it goes void, of course, it's not necessarily as subject to slides or things not kind of coming off the ground in the way we had thought. The thing about this day, though, is it is Saturday, and, well, depending on where you are in the world, but in Eastern time, it's Saturday. The mid-morning, late morning, with that moon in Cancer, some of us may be feeling a bit, well, overextended, or even some sadness. There was a picture in the sky with the moon in Chiron, the wounded healer. So it can also be a sense of things that didn't go the way you wanted them to go, or perhaps someone else that you work with or care about is a bit thrown because of a situation. So it's just important to kind of check in, observe, see where that's at, and by midday, we can be feeling like, okay, I've put that where I needed to do. I verified it, I validated it, and I know that. And how do I move on or make it better or work with what I have? And so the afternoon, evening looks highly productive to me. I mean, even if you're not working or doing anything that is production, again, productivity can be very high if we're just taking care of ourselves or someone else. Oftentimes what happens, especially if you're a type A personality or from an area of the world like I am, New York, there's that sense of high productivity, or maybe you have a very strong Saturn, and I know what that's like too, and you feel like I have to work, there has to be a result from something. My mother-in-law had a phrase which used to crack me up because I thought, oh wow, boy, I recognize this energetically. She would say, "Did you have a productive day?" And yeah, some people are just hardwired that the day has to be productive. But when the moon is in the sign of Cancer, sometimes the greatest productivity is taking care of yourself. Yes, taking care of people around you, your animals, your garden, your home, but whatever gives you a sense of focus on the things that give you personal security, personal sense of being rooted, of knowing what your place is. I think one of the most disconcerting things for a lot of people, I mean, some people are wanderers, they're totally content to move around and flit about, but people have ways that make them feel safe and secure. Whether it's a cup of tea, it's a comfy couch, it's maybe a totally sterile or neat environment. It depends on the person. But this day, Saturday, find your harbor. Find your place that makes you feel, okay, good. Because, and especially with the way things are at present, where there's so much chaos and turmoil and confusion, and we will be feeling tremendous change at points. And this is the first week with Neptune in Aries. So a lot going on. So make sure you take that time to do things that are good for you. And yeah, maybe what's good for you is to have a productive day. And I say that in a very knowing way because I know what that's like. Whether it's laundry, cleaning, cooking, your work project, but get to a point where whatever it is the output is, that you can feel that sense, especially late afternoon, evening, of and enjoy. Enjoy in whatever way gives you the absolute pleasure of being a human being in your body, in your place that feels safe. And that's a lovely way to be able to spend this day. The moon goes forward, of course, at 6:54 p.m., but in the sign of Cancer, it still has that delicious sense of just wanting to be in safe harbor, put down an anchor, and drift. The moon enters Leo at 12:34 a.m., and this day is, this can be a super fun day in the day. The thing that's important is you want to move by any power struggle or thing that's in your way in the morning. And it could be you wake up on the wrong side of bed, or you have a discussion with someone that just sets you off, or, hey, yeah, these days just look at the news. Whatever it is, it can be, but if you put it in its place in early morning, you can have a day that feels like, okay, what am I going to do with this energetically? How am I going to move it? Do something creative with it. Play with it. Put it into some kind of action. And the part that's really important on this day is that whatever you do, especially if it's anything creative or has to do with a message you want to get out there, chew on it. Unless for some reason you absolutely have to hit send and get it out in the world, it really is ideal if you can chew on it a bit, because Mercury goes direct on Monday the 7th, and it's kind of better if we wait until midweek until we really run with something that might be a bit volatile that we've been putting into a sense of action or direction on this week. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.